Okay guys, welcome back to Real Science with Chris Neal. I just wanted to put up a video to answer some of the questions that I get asked all of the time. And it's really important, when we are going down the road of performance medicine, your health, your well-being, really feeling awesome, to make sure that everything plays a part in that. Your health and is such a vital aspect to your performance, and they do go hand in hand. But in order to really dial things in appropriately, is how I like to call it, in order to dial things in appropriately, we need to look at everything. And a part of that is not only talking about how you feel, what's going on, what are some of your issues, your problems, your frustrations, your symptoms that you're dealing with, but also looking internally, looking under the hood. And we do that with labs. So I get this question all the time: what kind of labs do I need to get? Okay, and how do we get labs? Now, let me just take a step back first and tell all of you guys right up front, there are a million labs out there, and it's kind of like anything. There are going to be people on the internet and people online that will answer this question and will rack up a $500 or $600 lab bill for you, because you do have to pay for this, and do I really need to see $500 worth of labs in order to figure things out? If you're really good and you know what you're talking about, and you've worked with this kind of thing before with hormone replacement therapy, then I don't need $500 or $700 worth of labs in order to have the answer jump out of the page to me. So I don't mind with starting more conservatively. I'm more conservative just in general, and I lean very heavily onto how my patients feel and what's going on with them individually. I was taught very early to never treat a piece of paper, but the labs, those numbers on a piece of paper, they are important for us to go off of. So just to get started, so a lot of guys will, men and women, will ask, okay, well, what's a good starting place for me to go with? What's a good budget or basic set of labs that I can start with? And I call it the basic HRT panel. That's what I call it. So hormone replacement therapy panel. So your first one right off the bat, it's going to be, basically these four things, is a good start. Can you add more stuff into this? Yes. And I'm more than happy to go over it, and review there's all kinds of fascinating labs, and I can geek out into that all day long. But, like I said, this is a budget set of labs like this in most states, because the state laws are different, but in the vast majority of states, something like this should cost you around $70. And if you have any questions as to how to go about doing that, or if you need some advice or tips on how to get some labs, give us a call at the office at vikingalternative.com, and so we can hook you up and give you some advice as to how you can get your own labs. You can also go through your primary care doctor. Establishing a good relationship with your primary care doctor is very important, and it's really, really awesome. This doesn't happen all the time, but it's awesome for the folks out there that can go to their primary care doctor and say, hey doc, I'm interested in this specific lab panel. And it's your body, in my opinion. It's your body. You should be able to get whatever numbers you want. It's your insurance or whatever. So sometimes your primary care doctor will say, okay, that's interesting. Let's get it. And run the lab panel for you and run it through your insurance. That's awesome. If that works, great. But sometimes primary care offices or medical specialists are a little hesitant to do that. They think, well, you're the patient, I'm the doc. I need to be telling you what labs to get. You don't tell me what labs to get, and they just do their own thing. So in situations like that, it's not uncommon to go off and just order your own labs, and we have ways to do that, which are very convenient and can give you a lot of information to help you with what you need. So anyway, this is our basic HRT panel. The first one is your CBC, your complete blood count. Very, very important. And getting labs like this, it's not just for getting started with TRT. It's maintaining, a good balance with your TRT and maintaining your health with your hormone replacement therapy. So it's very, very important to maintain all of this and to keep an eye on these as we go along. In our clinic, I have to see labs every 6 months. I have to. I like to see labs sooner, but just so we can stay on top of things. I like staying in touch with all of my patients and making sure they're doing well. But I have to see labs. It's my protocol. I have to see labs at least every 6 months. but your CBC is the first one. That's going to include your hemoglobin and your hematocrit, your red blood cell count. Very, very important when it comes to hormone replacement therapy, especially testosterone use for guys. Very, very important. And also, those numbers, as we look at them, they have all of these things have a lot to do with your performance. Your performance and your health go hand in hand. Very, very important. So that's that part. The CMP, the complete metabolic panel, is also very important. Now, that one is going to talk about your blood sugar, your liver function, your kidney function, your electrolytes, all very, very crucial. Very crucial. So those two are really inexpensive. Just the two of those by themselves are usually, 15, 20, 30 bucks maybe. So really pretty cheap, to get that done. The total testosterone is, for obvious reasons, is important. Now, just as a side note, and this is more for especially for, men and women, but especially for guys that are on testosterone therapy, there are two different types. There's the basic, which is the immunoassay. And this is basically the technique that they use in the laboratory to determine what your testosterone number is. There's your immunoassay, and then there's what's called your LCMS, your liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. It's the two tools that they use to determine what your testosterone number is. So there's two different types, and you'll see either just total test. Lots of times they'll drop off the immunoassay word, or you'll see total test LCMS. Okay. If you can, always get the LCMS, just because if you're on different anabolics, if you're on DECA, for instance, that's a good one. Or, if we're looking at very specific things, it's this one is a lot more specific. The immunoassay can give you a pretty good reasonable number, but there are some cases where the immunoassay test, depending on the lab, can confuse testosterone with nandrolone or DECA. Or a couple other antibiotics that you might be taking. If you're not taking anything else, you're brand new to this, then it doesn't really matter, because either of these will be great at determining if you have a problem, like if you're low, either one would be just fine, but there are some cases that sometimes the immunoassay doesn't do as good a job. Anyway, that's just a side note. So your estradiol is a good one to go off of. That's one of the more active forms of estrogen. There's many, many different types of estrogen, but so just getting an estrogen number is not always what we routinely go off of. But estradiol, also known as E2, is a good lab value to get also. So this is your good basic one, okay, and basic lab panel. So that's a great one to get us started. So it's kind of like, I always, a lot of my patients know that I'm a bit of a car guy. So I like tinkering and working and fixing things. It's kind of like working on a car. When someone comes to you and says, hey, I would like an extra performance out of my car. You don't have to pull the engine and tear everything apart in order to determine where to start. We can start with this. And in some cases, there are very specific things that we have to work on. And in those cases, that's when getting specific labs are very, very important. If there's certain dialing in issues or additional concerns, then we can sniper in on what we're after, in a much more conservative and reasonable way than just shotgun everything and say, okay, we'll just get every lab panel that you can afford, and that's when you're looking at, $500, $600, $700, and for what, for what's the point? So these are some of the add-on labs for specific concerns I wanted to mention, so that if in advance you're coming to me as a new patient and you say, you know what, I think this might be going on, but I'm also having issues with my weight, and I don't know what's happening with that. So with weight loss, additional panels where we can get some really good information on your performance and what's going on with your body. Why is it that your body specifically, wants to hold on to the weight? Or better yet, when we look at additional labs like your lipid panel, what does your body want to do with certain types of foods? That's another critical issue, because like I always preach over and over and over again, everyone is very, very different. So by opening up the hood and looking at some of these numbers, we can start to discover what makes you you. And why is it that some people say, I've tried that diet and it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything for me. Or I've tried this and it works great, but this one doesn't, but that works great for somebody else. So that's where we really start to learn something, about about you as an individual, and that's where things get really fun, and we can start putting you in the right direction. So anyway, weight loss, looking at the lipid panel is really good. Looking at your hemoglobin A1C, in many cases, this is a single lab value that it's basically a 3-month picture as to how well your body does with sugar, your blood sugar in particular, how well it handles that. So it's a good value to look at in many cases relating to weight loss. And also your thyroid. The thyroid in general, I'm going to do a video on the thyroid, but the thyroid in general is a horribly misdiagnosed, overly diagnosed hypothyroidism. Is definitely an overly diagnosed condition. But there are cases where the thyroid does have issues, and being able to understand how the thyroid works, the personality of thyroid hormone in general, is very important. And this is a good start to look at your TSH, your T3, and your T4. This is their T3 total and T4 total, and there's a way to look at that, and put that into the whole picture. I can't just, it would be inappropriate, or it would be, I shouldn't call it inappropriate, it would be not complete for me to just look at your CBC, your CMP, and your TSH and say, oh, you've got a thyroid problem, that's what's going on here, take this medication. You have to look at the whole picture as to why you're not running the way you should. So starting out with the basic HRT panel, adding this in, once we learn all these things, then you'll start to, as we talk, you'll start to see things start to make sense, and it does. Now, next up, if we're looking at dialing in, this is something that that's usually for guys that are already, men or women, that are already on testosterone therapy. Like I said before, everybody's very, very different. So just hopping onto a protocol, I tell guys all the time, don't expect for everything to be magic right away. And as soon as sometimes it happens, which is great, but all of my patients, their protocol, their medications, they take it a little bit different depending on them and their mechanism and how their machine likes to run, and the process towards getting them from a hormonal imbalance to a precise level of performance and getting their hormone protocol exactly where it needs to be so they can get the most out of it. That process is called dialing in, and it's almost like fine-tuning little knobs, and as we go along, these are some of the things that are important. So if you're coming back to me at a second round, and we've gone through 8 weeks of hormone replacement so far, and you say, yeah, Chris, I'm feeling a little bit better in this aspect or this aspect, but I'm not quite there. Something still is off, or I feel good Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm not, I'm kind of dragged. So in those cases, I say, okay, we've got some dialing in to do. So this is a great lab panel if you're coming to me, and you'd like to get dialed in. So getting the basic HRT panel plus the dialing in. So sex hormone binding globulin is a very, very key one, and we talk about this one. I can do a whole video just on that one by itself. So free testosterone. I'm putting that in parentheses because SHBG is the primary factor that gives you a level of free testosterone. So I always like to see SHBG over free testosterone. Getting both of them is a little bit redundant, so if you're gonna spend extra money, there's no point in buying both, but I do like seeing SHBG. It tells us a lot about how your machine works, specifically men or women. Prolactin is another really, really good one. I call that one the anchor in our sailboat. So if there are people that go along and they're trying so hard to adjust their sails and they're pulling on the lines and they're not going anywhere and they're frustrated, and the whole time all along, and they might be frustrated for months, and the whole time their anchor's down, and that's the reason why they're not going anywhere. So prolactin is a hormone that a lot of people forget about and don't look at. And if you just look and you check and you're like, hey, the reason why we're not going anywhere is the anchor's down. Pull the anchor up, let's go. And then as soon as you do that, then you're back to being dialed in. So that's these two right here, prolactin and SHBG, are good ones when it comes to getting dialed in. Prostate health for men, obviously very important. What typically happens when you are dialed in with hormone replacement therapy and you are well balanced, your prostate likes it and it gets better, and it does get more balanced. But it's still good to check that PSA number in your blood work and keep an eye on that. It's a good one to have, But the most important thing when it comes to prostate health is going to be your wellness check. So establishing with a primary care doctor, like, we do recommend, and going through those routine wellness checks as we go along, and then they'll get you set up for that. So it's important to do anyway, but with good medically managed hormone replacement therapy, you should not be having prostate issues in general, but we like to check it anyway. One of the things about your PSA though that I will mention is that if you are going to be getting labs done, you never want to have any kind of sexual activity within 24 to 48 hours before you get your labs done and your PSA is checked, because that will increase your PSA number. So also another thing just to mention since I said that, so if you are going to be getting your labs done in your CMP, where we look at your kidney health and your liver function, a really, really hard workout, especially strength training workout, 24 hours before your labs, it can show a slight bump in your liver function or your kidney function. So just try and keep an eye on that, and obviously stay super hydrated, before you get your labs done. Always try and do your best to stay hydrated. It keeps your numbers in a good place. So next up is going to be your IGF-1. This is related to your growth hormone and the growth hormone family, your natural growth hormones that you have. So, or your, exogenous growth hormones that you're injecting. So I did a whole video on the growth hormone family, and we talked a lot about IGF-1. IGF-1 is not the end all, hormone or end all factor when it comes to growth hormone. It's very, very different than, say, like testosterone, which is more of a linear hormone. You take testosterone actually goes to the receptors and does the job, and you can measure your testosterone level, and it's always testosterone. That's it. So when it comes to growth factor, there are so many factors and so many things that are going on. IGF-1 is only one of the many things that are going on. So it's not perfect, but it's probably the best standard, or the most, it's the best thing we've got, really, but it's not a perfect number, but it's good to look at it also. Progesterone, that's one that's a little bit more important for women in their well-being. So that's a good one to check also. But the progesterone number, as far as getting it in actual serum in your blood work, is not very accurate, and it doesn't. The values don't really tell us as much as symptoms that you might be experiencing. So getting the number is okay. We can look at it, and it's great. It gives us some information. But what's going to give me the biggest amount of information is how do you feel and how you answer certain questions and what's going on. That's the important stuff that we really dig into, which is an overall theme with all of this stuff. So it's all important, and we look at it and we do understand it, and but it's only a part of the picture. So I know there's a ton. This is just a very simplified list, but there are a ton of labs that you can get. Here at Viking, with Viking Alternative Medicine, which is the clinic that I manage. Any of my patients know that they can come to me with any labs that they get, and we talk about them. We talk about them, we go through them, and they are very important to me. But this is just more of a simplified list to kind of get things going and answer that question for you. So I hope this helps, and I hope you guys got something out of it. Please hit the like and subscribe, and check us out for more videos. Thanks a lot.